first concern in this property is dampness at the top of the bedroom wall.
And the guy who was going to actually build the wardrobes, he said in the most compassionate way possible that he didn't want to do them until the issues with damp and mould were solved.
What, by not doing the wardrobes? You're about 6 inches above the window. Is that crack there? Do you know when this was painted?
No idea.
I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't done just before you bought. The thing about painting, because it's basically in line, it's about this, I mean it could be there. You've got a number of entry points. There's a gap there between this render and the outside. I doubt these salts are causing penetrating damp, but they could be. There's another crack here. You see where my finger is? And there's a gap there. You can actually see the brick through there. And your neighbour's got more cracks.
Fine cracks can draw in a lot of moisture through capillary action. Here we see heat loss in the corner. The property has been insulated, but there are seams where the two insulation panels meet, and this is where the water is getting through. Looking around the outside, we see various factors of concern.
These are hygroscopic salts,
Okay.
and these are coming from the chimney best. They result from carbon or coal has burnt, and it releases calcium nitrate, which is it has a specific relative humidity of 50%. So I told you about salt having 75%. Well, it has 50%. So that's what's causing that. Oh, you've got here that little gap there. Do you see it?
Oh yes.
Yeah. You want to? That's going to cause a problem at some stage.
Okay.
And if you look here, you've got both a source of water coming down there, and you've got an entry point there, and that's going to. And if you look at this, so that actually doesn't look too. Oh, there, that crack would allow water. Okay. So a really thin crack acts like a capillary, and it draws water in. So look at all of this stuff here.
Yeah.
Actually, if we look, we might as well look on the outside. So all of this needs to be, you need to take it back and fill the cracks. It may or may not penetrate the whole way through, but if it isn't penetrating through, it often causes heat loss, which then acts the same way. All right, so. It may or may not be relevant, but you've got a satellite dish where you've got the dampness in the bedroom. You've got these various areas.
Yeah, something that's a little bit strange, like with that crack there.
Yeah.
Probably filled with the thing.
Badly filled, yeah. Yes, hygroscopic. They're water loving. I suppose that'd be hygrophilic, but anyway, you've also got some source of water here.
Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago. That pipe was forced out.
Came loose, did it?
This pipe here, like at the top there, was when we had the cold snap. That was pushed out.
This is wet here. Oh, there's just. Is that your cold water pipe? Is it?
That's yeah.
Okay, it's probably just rainwater or something. Well, it's not. I mean, it hasn't been raining today, is it? But it's probably actually getting condensation because got water from. Oh look, so. Maybe you're wrong, but often these walls are damaged by damp proofing treatment.
Oh, right.
because so you need the plinth. Yeah, it's difficult to be certain. So the guss is missing there, or it's come loose. I mean, it's separated. Was that what you were talking about?
Yes, yeah. That's what I had cut and done here.
You got a few defects. So that's the problem with insulation, is that if there's a damage to the walls, such as that, water can come through and it sweats on the inside.
Yeah.
And if you had timber below that, you could end up having rot. There's a big risk of rot, but in this case you don't. You've just got
That's something, I guess.
So, but it will find its way through the joins, and the way you can tell that's penetrating damp is because you've got a brown. It's brown. It's a brown stain.
The dark band of dampness on the outside is caused by hygroscopic salts. These form a type of condensation known as deliquescence at a specific relative humidity that's below 100%. For salt it's 75%, for calcium nitrate it's 50%. It's released in the historic burning of coal. It's also released by equine urine. It is found in rising damp, it is found in groundwater, but since groundwater is very rare, especially on a hill which you're on, it's highly unlikely to come from groundwater, and yet the damp proofers always treat it as if it were from groundwater. In this case, it was Kenwood that damp proofed your chimney breast about a year and a half ago. Completely unnecessary, nothing to do with rising damp, and will affect the humidity inside your property. It will reduce the absorption of vapor, increasing the risk of mold and condensation. Inside the property there's extensive mold. Mold only grows where there's excess vapor from insufficient ventilation.
I mean, as I say, if you've got mold, then it tells me that there is a humidity problem. The things built up around the radiator are going to mean that the radiator is not efficient.
This room is the designated studio, which at the moment is being used as a storage room. It isn't heated as much as other rooms. There's a solid floor. Condensation is forming on the solid floor. As you can see here, the damp meter reading is very high, and you can see the rust on the metal work around the carpet grip. The mold is growing on the skirting board, and that's actually the coldest part of the room because there is some insulation. A quick check of the water meter proved that there's no leak in the property. However, we should consider whether there's a radiator heat, which is a separate system.
Just to remind myself that the radiator has to be topped up roughly every 2 months, particularly when away after a week.
I don't know if there is some sort of lattice of wires blocking the signal.
So in summary, you have penetrating damp through cracks in the walls plus defective guttering. You also have excess internal vapor causing mold and condensation. That comes mainly from insufficient ventilation from the bathroom currently, but probably previously as well. Possibly drying clothes internally, not using the kitchen extractor fan as often as possible. You should keep the bathroom door closed. But in addition to that, use a dehumidifier. And also, I am an advocate of using damp meters to determine whether the walls are becoming drier. And then you'll know that what I'm talking about is correct. And you won't feel a need to use damp proofers, which anyway is going to increase the risk of mold and condensation.
Go as high as you can do at 999. And then probably just mark it here on the wood, and then each week you go to the same place, and over time it will drop. It takes time. It always evaporates from the top downwards.
Okay.
So gravity pulls water down. So that's why you always get water at the base of the ground more readily than higher up. So it's in this corner here, which means it couldn't be rising damp, because rising damp would be a horizontal line at equal
Okay.
length. So there's something happening here.
There's a zone of internal dampness behind a gas meter. What's happening is the gas meter is causing heat loss because it's drawing heat into the subfloor void.
One thing I'd say is that how can I put it delicately? Any clutter will cause some issues with. So vapor moves through diffusion like smoke, and the clutter will allow the vapor to come through, but it will stop the hot air currents from coming through. So you end up getting high relative humidity. So this is the gas. Oh, it's not even a gas meter. It's I don't know what it is, or maybe it looks like gas. I think it's just been moved. There was over there.
Yeah.
It's a lump of metal, and it's going into the subfloor void, and it's losing temperature in the subfloor void. So it's creating heat loss, and it's on this wall here. So this wall is going to be a bit more vulnerable to condensation anyway. Being a cold internal wall ends up being worse than a cold external wall, because it wasn't built with insulation in mind. I mean, I doubt it's probably not even brick wall. It's probably just plasterboard.
Okay.
So that's why you're getting it there. But so if you just put insulation, I mean, you don't even have to. You could just slot, something like that, or obviously something in behind here will stop the wall from becoming cold. That's all you're doing. The reason why the dew point is important is that the outside air can only hold vapor up to the external temperature. When it's raining, it's 100% relative humidity. Rain is condensation, essentially.
Yeah.
So the outside will be at 100% relative humidity, and the dew point will be the external temperature. Any ventilation, any air that you blow out of the property will be replaced with air that comes in at the dew point of the outside, i.e. the outside temperature. So if you were in a perfectly ventilated property, your internal dew point will be the same as the outside dew point, because dew point's a measure of vapor pressure, and the vapor in the air outside will be the same as the vapor in the air inside, if you're perfectly ventilated.
Yeah.
Not saying that everyone's perfectly ventilated all the time,
Yeah.
but the way to reduce the internal vapor is by using a dehumidifier. The second thing you should know is that even though when it's raining the external dew point will be the same as the external temperature, when it isn't raining it will be lower, so you can actually drop it below the external temperature when it's not raining outside. But in the UK and in London in particular, we're a humid climate, and a majority of the time the external vapor is 90% or more, and the external dew point is more or less the external temperature all the time. So what I'm suggesting is that you try, at least during this week, to keep the dew point at or below the external temperature.
I should also add that targeted ventilation is essential. Here the bathroom extractor fan wasn't working.
I'll explain why I don't think PIVs are very good. Positive input ventilation. So if you were to put in, I don't know where they would put it, but typically they'll put it in the corridor here. I mean, so to start with, they were developed for houses, not for flat. And the base is that you get what's called thermal gain in the roof. So you get heat in the roof, but you've got external dew point, you've got external vapor in the roof. You should have, unless there's a leak in the roof.
Yeah.
So you've got the thermal gain you get the heat on the nice slate concrete roof,
Yeah.
and you've got the external dew point. Well, if in a flat you're not getting the thermal gain, so all you're doing is you're blowing in cold air at external
Okay.
dew point, and the best it can do is blow out of the nearest gap. So wherever the nearest gap is, it could be the front door, it could be an internal, if you've got, or you don't have trickle vents here, but it can be through the floor. It doesn't matter where it is, but at best it will be average humidity that you're removing.
Right.
It doesn't target the source of the vapor. So the source of the vapor is primarily bathroom, kitchen, drying clothes, and respiration. It can maybe help a bit with respiration, but what I see so often, a VIP setup, and there's a gap, a trickle vent, and it's just causing a shortcut, and it's just coming in one and out of the other.
Yeah.
It's losing a lot of heat. So to get around the heat loss, they'll put in electrical heating, but that's a very expensive way to deal with it.
Yeah.
You're far better. So the one caveat I'd say is it's good if you suffer from hay fever in May, because it does filter the air.
Okay.
As you're coming through, but that's a small benefit compared to the costs.
Yeah.
You'd probably save. You'd save at least the cost of the unit, which is normally £1,000 to £2,000, plus the annual maintenance, which you should do, plus the electrical and loss of heat, because you've got to remember that you're blowing out of the property heat that you've heated up, and you're replacing it with external.
Yeah.
You're much better off using a dehumidifier for general vapor, such as drying clothes and respiration, and a bathroom extractor fan, a good bathroom extractor fan, and continuous flow extractor fan is a good example. And it's a lot cheaper than using a PIV.
Okay.